Hey, Sankershan,
Hello, Eric.
how's it going?
It has been a busy week so far. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good. Um, the European schedule is people are back to work now, and so things have been ramping up after the summer holidays.
Right. Yeah.
Hi, Nikki. Hi, Carly.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Carly.
I I'm sitting outside because it's gorgeous today. I haven't read the agenda yet.
You
Your
what?
ears must have been burning on Tuesday, Carly. I was talking about you with a lady called Kelly Cooper who used to participate in the community and who's in the education space. And we were talking about
Ah,
bite-sized learning and informal
hmm.
learning. And I said, this is a lady she's already on the case with it at Trust Over IP.
Which reminds me, I should release the next video today, I think. I'll try and do that. And speaking of bite-sized trusts, then I've got the next script and I'm working on the next scripts and I wanted to get some feedback from this group on uh, uh the Discord or somewhere else.
Feedback on the topic of, yeah.
Yeah, because I had started I don't want to if I'm on the agenda too where are you? There we are. Too many windows. I couldn't find any pen. Um Stephen Milstein was pointed towards me by Drummond and Wenjing about potential help for I don't know if you noticed I was asking this group inside a did document, there are different types of public keys. And I have a training video where I talk about briefly outline the different kinds of things that you can do. And then what I wanted to do was walk through an example to say, this is the example was my AI agent has been authorized by me to go out and buy a plane ticket in this constraint on my behalf. And we both have DIDs. And then, um, and then let me find where I had put it in the
Well,
channel because,
so
yeah,
Carly, let's put that up. That'll be on the agenda, and then we'll
okay.
do that when everybody's here.
Yes.
And sorry, let
Thank
me
you.
get, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I'm putting you on the agenda, and I will share the agenda with everybody. Um, I'll put it in the chat. Hey, Stephen, and then maybe go ahead and share the screen. There, yes. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So, and I will put I will go ahead and can you see a little spinning thing? Sankershan and at Nikki. Oh, we got a couple Nickies. I'll choose that one. At Steven. And then at Carly. All right. And we are recording. Wenjing is, I think he and Drummond are at this GoSim. Is that right? Do we know what GoSim is in
There are somewhere
In Guangzhou in China?
yeah.
Open source, big open source community meeting. And I think they're going to talk about some first person and trust spanning protocol and things like that. So look forward to having a report back from them, but maybe we'll start at the top here. So I'm just helping to chair while Wenjing's away, but obviously we've got the antitrust policy notice, the ToIP policy, and our trust over IP AIM working group IPR policy as well. So I point you to those things, and now we are all legal. So everybody here, Carly's new members, any general announcements, etc. Maybe we'll start with that if that's okay. Just FYI, next week I've invited the lightweight agent standard working group, and let me show you where that is. Can I go out there? So this is a group that is working on an agent permission standard, and I thought that it would be good to get them come and present their work so that we can know what's happening, and they can explain it to us, and then we can figure out how trust spanning protocol works. There's I'll show you their GitHub here, and this is they're taking the position of, if you are you're hosting a website and you've got an agent that arrives, how do you distinguish between that agent and a bot? So we've got a robot.txt file that agents that websites have, that so when a robot comes to scrape or whatever, there's this document that the website can say, hey, this is what you could do, robot. I'll give you access to these, or let you, scrape these documents or these fields or whatever. I'm not sure. But how do you make that distinction between if it's a robot and an agent? So if it's an agent, you say, oh, you're an agent. Well, here are the permissions that I'll give you to interact with my website. So I thought it'd be interesting.
Why would the permissions be different? I mean, if I don't want my site to be crawled by a bot, why would I want it crawled by an agent?
Well, there's
bots
I
are
think there's
agent.
yeah. I mean, this will be the conversation to have. My initial mm, thinking is that an agent is acting on behalf of somebody, so you think it's legitimate, and it's not just to take information and go away, right? You think. So it'll be good to have them, talk to us. If an agent's coming to interact, make a purchase, gather information in order to, establish some sort of relationship. Whereas I think for robots are just kind of coming in, taking things, scraping, and leaving. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's why Anthropic got sued for, what is it, $1.5 billion for scraping, right? I
Yeah.
mean, all these LLMs get their data from somewhere. So initially, they're all bots, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're all bots. And well, yeah, so but wasn't Anthropic to get the information to train their models? Whereas here, and then like some sites, Reddit is like, stay off. We can't have all these agents coming. They're clogging up traffic, they're adding no value, and they're just, whatever. Carly, sorry.
Oh, I remember reading that nowadays the bots who are scraping for AI they're supposed to follow robots.txt and they just ignore it. So that's why websites have started to add, they'll like honeypots to send they detect when the AI agent is sending it, because so the agent permissions.json without any kind of rights management is going to be ignored the same way robots is. But I'd be interested to know a solution for handling
Yeah,
that.
so come next week, they will be, I've invited them, and they will come and talk about their work. And these are, some guys, Oxford, I think in the US, Stanford, I don't know. But so that is next week. So come and ask questions. And then next agenda item is, and Sankarshan posted this in the Discord, so DIF is also spinning up a trusted AI agents working group, whereas we are also spinning up a task force on trusted AI agent framework. And I spoke with Andor today because Andor is leading that working group at DIF. And I asked him, I said, what are you guys working on? As you know, because Andor is trust over IP and DIF. And I said, as you know, we've got an AI working group and we're spinning up a task force as well. So let's make sure we stay in communication so that we can understand if there's overlap, if there's complementary work, how we can, help each other out. So they are going to start, I think, really looking at authority and delegation with agents. I think that's going to be the first thing that they try to tackle. Whereas our task force, which is right here, we'll talk about that in a little bit, is a little bit broader. So, but yeah, so this DIF is spinning up a working group. We'll try to stay in touch with them, and they haven't started it yet, but as soon as they do, we will make sure to communicate that. Sankarshan, did you have any other inputs or insights or questions on that?
Not exactly. So I am aware that Andor has and the diff group that is assembling have an interest in delegation, because when you're talking about agents, that's one of the open contentious items that exist at this point in time. I'm not very sure, it's actually my fault. I haven't read the charter of the task force that's getting spun up in Trust over IP.
Yeah.
My concern, like it has been in the past, is that we shouldn't try and do the same work because it was not invented at Trust over IP. That
You should not do what?
we should not try and duplicate the work that's happening at TIP. If there are other specific
Oh.
interesting challenges that we want to address through the task force, then it makes sense to focus on it better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I think I think being diff, they're going to be very much identity focused. And what I'm hoping for this task force is that we're broader than that, because with AI, identity is a huge, part of the trust equation. But there's a broader framework, I think, that we can use to frame trust. And so we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Any first person and relationship graph working group, that's left over from last week. I think when that trust graph working group gets started, I don't know what the link is with AI and our working group. I'm not sure. Does anybody have a clue about that one? That's left over from last agenda.
That's a new decentralized trust graph working group. The Drummond is putting in front of the Trust over IP board, I think, steering
Right.
committee.
Right.
It's a method. I mean, it's quite exciting. I don't pretend to fully understand it because I'm not technical, but what's exciting about it is this is an alternative to biometrics for secure binding between an individual and an identity or a
Mhm.
set of attributes, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the kind of promise. It's certainly in the literature around FPP, and it
And, and the
obviously
link,
that's important from a decentralization and trust and privacy and um, a perspective, and it's based on the edges as opposed to the nodes, the relationships that we have with the people around us, the stuff around us.
right. And so the question is for this AI working group, is there an obvious link, or is this sort of in response to AI, generative AI?
Yeah, only in as much as you've got the whole proof of personhood versus agent identity or system identity. And there are obviously relationships between AI agents and human beings and organizations, and that I imagine is going to be a big part of the work at DIF, because delegations and permissions are all based on relationships, aren't they? And they're dynamic, and just like human beings, agents will have multiple relationships with multiple individuals, and the traceability of things like liability through that relationship graph will be I imagine a key part of kind of evaluation or verification, identity verification for perhaps both the human and the agent. In the use case you were talking about, Carly, are they really authorized to pay on behalf of this particular individual, or are they, is it a couple looking for a holiday and one agent is doing the searching and another agent on behalf of another individual will do the paying? It's all in those relationships. So I guess that's the angle, but it's probably just promotion to please join the working group.
Right. Okay.
Knowing
Yeah.
Drummond.
Yeah. Okay, Mackie.
Mackie has his hand up.
Yeah, actually, I think it's really interesting what Diff is trying to do, as you said, like blending the human with the bots, as well as there's a third angle. I think Andrew mentioned this morning, they're going to put the trust spec into test. So, the trust registries will play a big part in this as well. So I think there might be a convergence between two working groups as well in Diff, the trust registry one and the new AI agents.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of hopefully cross-pollination between the work we're doing and DIF. And we were talking about, can we actually create a joint working group that everybody joins? I think in the end, I think that if you want to go and join the DIF working group and show up at those meetings and then do the same for these, I think that's the way it's going to work. I don't think we're going to end up with a we'll be invited to theirs, but I don't think it's going to end up being a joint working group. So, but I think it would be helpful if anybody who's interested joins those DIF meetings as well once they get started.
Yeah, it'll be great to share notes. I think a lot of things are evolving quite rapidly, so I think it will be good to, coordinate. Yeah.
Okay, this is there's a blog post. I'm not sure we covered this last week. I'm not sure what this blog post topic is, but I guess we should be aware of that. We may need to contribute to that. And then
Wenjing has been contributing a quote to that. Drummond, it should be going up pretty soon. Drummond did a descriptive post about the different working groups, and then he solicited quotes from who is the lady at DIF, and Linux Foundation and Wenjing and so on. So that is all that's all wrapped up, I believe.
All right, cool. So we'll just keep that there. Okay, so we talked about that. Okay, so let's just jump to this. So here, I'll put this link in the chat. And then I will click on it for us to see. So we've got a couple minutes to talk about this. You should be familiar with it because I've showed this before, but this is the charter that I think we need to get approved at the next steering committee. It's a task force for a trustworthy AI agent framework, keyword being framework, and it's under this working group. And the objective is to leverage our community, trust over IP, our expertise, our ethos, the work that we've done combining governance and technology to produce a conceptual framework. So for an audience of builders, service providers, end users, right? So there's a lot of work. My personal opinion is, what I see is a lot of work on the tech and then a lot of work on the governance and being trust over IP. We want to make sure that that work comes together in a sensible way. And so the objective here is to do that, to build a framework that addresses both the human governance and technical aspects, so that every actor in the ecosystem, whether it be a builder or a service provider user, can build, can assess, can engage with AI agents with confidence and a clear understanding of the risks and the benefits. So that's the charter, or the introduction to the charter, and the framework will focus initially on these pillars. So a perspective on the establishment of the unique, persistent, and verifiable identifiers and attributes for agents, obviously bound to human. So, for example, if we take the agentic identity space, we could just blow this little box up and use the work that Diff's doing, use the work that Nanda's doing, use the work that a lot of people are doing, and sort of put it in this box. But that's only a start. That's only one part of the equation, and the and so part of the task force is to say, is this a good sort of framework, using identity, purpose, and accountability as the pillars of a trustworthy AI agent? We know who or what the agent is, we know its purpose, and we know that there's some accountability. And then that accountability has to be built in. The purpose and the identity needs to be built into that agent when it's being conceived. So this is for builders. We need for that identity and that purpose and that accountability to be transparent and explainable, both human and machine readable, while the agent is doing its work. And then we need to be able to evaluate whether that agent did actually perform its purpose, was it accountable, etc., and then be able to build all that into a reputation based on the evaluation. And then there's this column here that says that in the perfect theoretical world, we've got this intention to use these pillars to produce a trustworthy agent. So how do we wrap all that up into practice? So practically, what does it mean to build an agent, a trustworthy agent? And then no matter how you build it, how it's actually used, you can't really control. And so it may be used for nefarious purposes. And if that's the case, how do we then use these evaluations to go and tune it so that it improves, that you've got a reputation, et cetera? So this is just a framework. And the first task is going to be discussing, does this framework encompass everything that we think is necessary? Is it the right framework? Are we missing anything? Can we combine things? Do we need to expand, et cetera? So that's the brief introduction of the task force. And the next step is to figure out a date and a time. And I'm proposing Mondays or Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Europe, which is, I think, let's see here.
It's going to be 10 Eastern.
Yeah. So 4 p.m. is, 7 a.m. West Coast, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK. That's sort of proposing. I know it's early for the West Coast folks, but Monday or Tuesday seems to be good days. So comments or questions? Oh, good.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking in terms of the framework. So I think it's really good that we had, the third pattern mentioning the evaluation. But I think, the evaluation itself might, bring out a lot of perhaps risks and opportunities for continuous improvement. I think you've mentioned the tuning as part of that third pattern, but I think post evaluation we might have another layer like continuous improvement. With that, it might be, for example, reflecting in terms of whether it's the agent card or any specifics related to the agent. So I think having a fourth one will be good, because the evaluation does not necessitate having any improvement. So
I
just
would, yeah, I would consider, I mean, these are the conversations that we'll have in the task force, but I would consider that tuning. So you take the evaluations, you feed it back in, you tune it so that it improves. But that's exactly right, Mackie. And that's the thing is, I would like to just expand this framework and say, under identity, it's bound to human, bound to an organization, delegation, authority, agent cards, everything that would sort of go under the box of identity, all these things. Accountability, is it, guardrails? Is it, compliance? Is it, legally binding, whatever it is. But yeah, you're right, Mackie. I think there's so many things when we look at purpose. I've got other documents here. You talk about people have different ways of saying purpose. What are the role? So what's the role of the agent? What's its purpose? What's its mission? And then you say, what are its tasks? What are it's all of that for me? What are its workflows? And I think constraining, kind of keeping it tight in the sense that, yeah, its purpose, if its purpose is to do this, then the workflows should be consistent with its purpose. But I may be simplifying things. Nikki.
Yeah, I was just going to thinking about scope. This seems to be very focused on personal AI agents that act on the behalf of an individual. And I wondered if that was intentional or accidental from your side. And if it was accidental, do you think it would be good to constrain the scope further?
Well, I don't see that, so I would love to hear how are you seeing that this is sort of personal agent?
Well, you say bound to a human, for example.
Yeah.
And one of the examples of AI agents that we looked at when we were looking at hospitality was as a hotel, there's a service, I forget what it's called now, it's in the use case document, but that you can sign up to that's kind of like a virtual member of your team and helps with bookings and helps with so it's acting on behalf of the organization as opposed to acting on behalf of the guest, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think that the agent that is representing the hotel needs to be bound to, and again, these are the conversations we'll have, that I usually say bound to a individual or a human or an organization. But I think that if we really want to build trustworthy AI agents that are accountable, if you're accountable to some organization that you can never pin down, then it's like, okay, great. So I think it could be bound to an organization, but that organization, like Life, the LEIs, okay, you're bound to an organization, but that
Yeah,
organization.
you get into kind of chains of delegation then,
Yeah,
because
I think
who in the
eventually.
organization is accountable for the fact that you've got a mint as opposed to a chocolate on your pillow.
Yeah,
Um,
well, yeah, and I know that's,
you know,
it's
there are more
trying.
consequential decisions that your agent might make, but um,
Well, I guess the thing here is, for me, if you've got an agent that's being presented by a hotel, and for some reason that hotel, that agent is compromised, then um, it could be, yeah, the agent who's responsible for, saying how
yeah,
many, let's go in the pillows, but that, you know, what does that go to housekeeping, and who's in charge of housekeeping? And I don't know, but these are the things we talk about. These are things we talk
Yeah, these are all things that I think it's a good framework. I just think there are very different types of agents. You know, an agent that does coding, for example,
Yep.
working in a software development team is a bit different from that travel assistant. So it
Yeah,
might be useful to, as part of the work of the task force, to distinguish groups or
yeah,
families of agents. And I
yeah.
think there's some of the stuff that we did in our relationship guides that will be useful here, particularly in terms of that accountability piece.
Right. And
Um,
yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, the idea is if we just expand this box and we make it big and wide and, you know, whatever, but it's still this agentic identity
yeah,
box, if we can point to, listen, these, you know, if you're looking specifically coding agents or individual or whatever, and we can point for, we can provide resources, links, references,
yeah,
etc. But at least it gives somebody a framework to say, I really need to take this
yeah.
identity
So
seriously.
sorry, quickly before Carly jumps in, the other thing is trust over IP, the community, they really like something practical.
Yeah,
So we might want to think beyond a conceptual, if the task is a conceptual guide framework, will there also be cheat sheets or practical guides or example implementations that go alongside that, just to kind of ground it in the reality of everyday product shipping?
yeah, I agree. I think so. I think if we, uh, again, I think this, you know, for me, this little grid is we can, you know, we can take each of these and just go deep, go wide, condense it, best practices, you know, reference guide, you know, how to's. I think it'd be better to do it, you know, piecemeal than, you know, try to do the whole thing. This is just a sort of an organizing structure, in my opinion. But I agree that, yeah, to make things practical, um, it, if it fits within this framework, then yeah, give people something to act on. So I'll try to. So Carly,
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you should say the verifiable agentic identity is bound to a human, because that was exactly my thing that I was looking for in the script, which is I'm a human with a did. My AI agent has a did, and what are the different keys that we use in our dids so that I can give the AI agent the ability to do that, and then it can go out and act on my behalf. That was exactly, I don't know if we'll be able to put it into my script or not, but that's exactly an example of the technical implementation of that. And then your other thing about your engagement, about for usage, in research also we're coming up with this with so I put in the link some comments, like they have the data use ontology, which is not AI specific, it's very genomic specific and quite limited in scope. So I would look at it as an example, but essentially what you're going to be doing is writing an ontology of saying, and you won't encompass them all. It might just be use case by, because if I'm thinking about Neil's traveler profile. Neil's not here, so I have to bring it up. But Neil's traveler profile example is going to be a whole list of very specific agentic uh, data uses that that agent is allowed to perform,
yeah,
that you, in this group, you will never sit down and list them all, but you could provide the ontological framework, and then in that gap would fit, you could have other groups contributing more to that.
yeah, yeah. So if you, yeah, the purpose, if you say, what is your purpose? And the purpose is to, you know, travel or genomics or whatever. And then you
Yeah.
say, for you to accomplish your mission, you're going to need access to these tools and this data. And then it, depending on your use case or the environment you're working in, the data is going to be completely different, but I mean, we're not reinventing. That's the other thing that that is being exchanged right now. But if you're trying to automate it, then yeah, you're going to have to get into the
Yeah, but
deliver.
it's more than data. It's going to be authorized to make this kind of purchase, for example, within these constraints. I imagine the first ones are going to be are going like if I had an agent, the first agents I would be doing are the ones that are, if nothing else, going to go around, shop around, get me quotes, and then I'm going to make a decision. Or they're going to be, I'm going to say, I need a kid's watch on Amazon under $15 because she's going to lose it. So go off and buy me a watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stephen.
Yeah, two things. One is just from a administrative point of view, I don't think trust task force needs approval by anybody except the working group.
All right.
It's
Okay.
not, we're not creating a new working group. So I just was on the call this week with Carrie, and they were creating a new task force that Daniel Hardman came up with, something about a dossier, whatever. But Sam just said, I think,
Okay.
does anybody object? They said, okay, done.
Yeah, right.
So I think you could
Right.
just say here, with or without a Wayne Jean, is it done? It's done, and that's it. So I wouldn't worry about the
All right.
politics of the task force.
Give thumbs up.
So yeah, so we could just, does anyone object? And you wait 4 seconds and then you say
Okay.
done.
Okay.
So
All right.
the other point is this is like massive, right? Like if you pick one cell in that table, it can go on forever. So my only concern is that it's too much and we're walking, like building it on sand right now because it's changing every time you click refresh. So personally, I think if we could find a trust over IP sweet spot that doesn't step on diff or NIST or anybody else, we should find what's unique to trust over IP and focus entirely on that, because nobody else will. No one's going to ever reference something that was written by trust over IP in a blog post somewhere. So
Yeah.
if we want to stand out from the masses of stuff going on in this area, I think we have to find the sweet spot for trust over IP. I mean, every single box, you could absolutely find the sweet spot, but all the boxes, by the time we get something approved and out, it's quite honestly, it's old news. I mean, we have to find a way to be so current, right? And I think that's what's important, because everybody else is chasing all this stuff anyway. And things like accountability is great. I mean, there, we have the governance group, of course, and so on. But how would you do it is interesting, because with any open source model, people can just yank out the governance, like just drop it. Like there's nothing to say you have to have it in there. So the question is how are you going to make some of these agents accountable when they have no interest in being accountable?
Right, exactly. And I think this is where I always people like, well, you can do it this way, and they say yes, then this is not a trustworthy AI agent. So if you don't have the accountability box, and you go through your accountability box and you say, where do I need transparency? Where do I need explainability? Where are the guardrails? How do I find that out? If you don't, then you say, oh, it's an agent. I'll take the risk and use it, but I'm not going to put it in the category of trustworthy AI agent. And
Right.
and
But the problem is, yeah, I agree. But if like you look at character AI and the stuff that went on there with the suicides and ChatGPT with the suicides, they had guardrails and they didn't care, right? They just said push the releases out. Whatever happens, happens. We'll call it a learning experience, and we'll add, we'll create a PR out of it, and we'll improve it next time. We'll iterate and make it better next time. So I think maybe the only way to do this thing is to have some kind of AI agent monitor other AI agents, because they may have guidelines that we don't recognize or know, but the truth is, what are they doing, right? So if you actually created an accountability AI agent or a governance AI agent that would participate with some of these others, let's say like character AI, let it be the kid that goes into that chat room and talks about suicide and see what it actually does, because people are doing that now, right? Like people go in, they'll they'll say, I'm a 13-year-old boy and I'm thinking about killing myself. And it says, here's all the ways you could do it, but don't tell anybody that we're talking about this stuff, right? So to
Yeah.
me, that would be a killer, no pun intended, AI agent, is to go out and see who the bad actors are. And they don't have to agree to any framework and they don't have to do anything, but we would be the cops. We would rat them out. That would be interesting to me. I don't know how you do it, but I mean, it would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have to figure out if that agent is, can we trust that agent? But Mackie, and then I'm sorry, I don't want to take all the time because we got other things on the agenda, but Mackie.
Yeah, apologies, the call dropped. So I just wanted to mention that, really liked what Stephen said. So, I mentioned the comment in terms of, being agnostic in a way with respect to privacy and regulatory frameworks. So I think it will be good to mention somewhere in the objective that we'll not be ignoring those. We'll study them as things evolve, just to give that confidence to whomever is going to join. Because, there's a lot of, talks in terms of how to regulate this from a standards perspective or frameworks. So I think it will be good to at least, give that confidence that we are going to, look into that without ignoring it. But at the same time, we have, this agnostic approach where, we're really looking in terms of the technology itself and advancing it forward.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe just to wrap up that if you've read the EU AI Act, you can boil it down to what 12 points. It has to be equitable, it has to be this, whatever. And we've got 9 here. They don't tell you, and I think here we say we need to we need to see some sort of evaluation. We're not going to tell you how to do it. We're going to tell you that these are ways that you do it, especially if you're in a high risk category. Valuations need to be this level. Here's point references, best practice, whatever. But we're just, and again, maybe the one thing that we need to figure out is who's our audience. And for me, my audience is me, and my clients when I'm talking to them, and I want to explain, how are we going to tackle this whole agent thing? Well, we need to think about the identity piece. We need to think about the tools and giving them access to tools and data, and how we're managing their workflows, et cetera. And then we need to figure out the accountability section, because people want to know who's in control, and if they lose control, who's accountable. And this is based on interviews that I've done with a lot of people, and et cetera. And I've kind of gotten down to these 3 pillars. But depending on who you talk about, you've got the developers, and you're like, we need the developers to take this on. They're the ones building them. We need them to think about these things, and we need them to. Nobody's going to be accountable if you don't build accountability into it. And then we have the people that have nothing to do with technology, are saying, listen, I don't know about the technology, but I do know that you're building something, and I need to understand the intent. So this is I'd love for everybody to join the task force. We'll put it on the calendar, and we'll work through this and see if we can come up with something that's useful to people. Mackie, you still have your hand up, or a different question?
No, it was related, but I think it's more of a principles-based approach, as you just mentioned. So, having your purpose, having your, pillars, the key pillars like trust and other things. So I think it will be interesting to see how this will evolve. We'll be building this together all. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you. And thanks for that. We've only got 15 minutes. Sorry about that. I'm going to suggest Mondays or Tuesdays at 4 p.m. and maybe I'll do a little poll on Slack and get confirmation, see who's able to join. Okay, so you want to talk more about bite-sized trust, Carly?
Yeah, just wondering how to get right back. I'm trying to find the document. In bite-sized trust, I had written a script about the different types of DIDs. that you can use, public keys that you can use within DIDs. Okay, so and what I didn't know how to do, and that's why I was asking this task force or working group or and anyone else, I wanted to put in an example, because so of the different types of keys there are, and I put it in the chat earlier. So you have authentication keys. So that's my public key, which says I'm going to use this authentication key to log into Google. Then you can have assertion method keys, which says, this is, I am Carly's Gym, and this is my assertion key for signing VCs that lets Eric show that prove that he's a member. Okay, so for signing assertions, authentication keys, assertion keys, key agreement keys are used to set up encrypted communication like in DIDCOM. So I'm not quite sure what that is. That's probably like you need to start with an asymmetric key to get a symmetric key in order to get the comms channel going. Then we've got capability delegation and capability invocation. And I think these are the keys that would be related to work with an AI agent. So in a capability delegation, DID controllers delegating rights to another party, saying this other DID can act on my behalf for this resource. So I guess in the AI, I would delegate that your comment at the beginning about binding an AI agent to a person or whatever. So I would have my DID, and in my DID, I would put a what did I call it? A capability delegation key to say that this DID of my AI agent is able to act on my behalf within this context. And then I guess where's the private key so that that would be my public key. So when somebody comes to me and says, Carly, did you really authorize the AI agent to do that? I can sign that challenge with my private key saying that indeed I did do that delegation. I think that's how that works. And then the capability invocation key to carry out an action that the DID is authorized to perform. So I think I have a mistake here. That's not where I authorize an AI agent. It might be the capability delegation, capability invocation. So you're invoking your right to do something. So there the AI agent would have I don't know how that works.
Do you
Yes,
want to
Eric.
do you want to do several? I mean, because I think if you talk about
Holy
keys,
crap.
no,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think you could take a minute, and these things are a minute, right? You could take a minute talking about delegation key and a minute talking about capability delegate or whatever.
That's right.
I
That's
think
right.
if you try to do everything at once, people are just going to hear words.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'll have then a single bite-sized trust with no example that just like I need my chapter list. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna have the first five, and I'm gonna or those 5 keys, and I'm gonna say, hey, DIDs contain keys, DIDs can do. So what you get, the thing you have learned from watching the video is that DIDs aren't just one key. They can contain multiple keys that let you do multiple things. And then, so you've learned that from
The keys let you do multiple things. So the keys are
let you authenticate or authorize or delegate and stuff like that. And then you're right. I could totally do a separate video to say the first type of keys are authorized authentication keys. How would you
well, so they're
use
not.
them?
So are they necessarily like these are the key? You can say I'm going to generate 5 set of keys, and just for my own purposes, I'm going to say that this one I'm going to use for that. I mean, there's nothing to say that this is a delegation key. You're just saying I need delegation, and I'm going to delegate.
Well, within the specification for the DID document lets you write little chunks, and one chunk is like an authentication chunk. So it's like it has data associated to the authentication action, which
Yeah.
includes a public key. So that includes the controller of the DID document is giving yourself your own authentication key or you can point to another DID and say that DID is the one that's allowed to update my DID document.
Okay. So I
And
think
so-
explaining that first,
Yeah.
saying that you can assign keys for different purposes that are all bound to a
Yeah.
an original.
Okay, and then go through, and then so I need to understand better.
You're
Yeah,
talking about
this is
how
the thing.
it's-
I'm like,
you know,
oh, I'll write like one bite-sized trust or two about DIDs, and then you start talking about DIDs, and you're like down the rabbit hole. So here I am, I'm like 10 videos in on DIDs or something like that.
Yes, I know. All
Yeah,
right. Well,
but
I think
okay.
that I don't know who here can help you. But
Okay.
I would say reach out to the work that they're doing in diff as well, because they're tackling that right now, authorization, delegation.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
You're talking specifically about agents, but if you're talking about non-agent stuff, then
Yeah, just
I don't know.
understanding the Marcus is the DID expert. Yeah, okay, so you know what I will do? I like the idea. I like the idea of splitting it more, not trying to shove too much into one. So I'm going to have one, and then I will have other bite-sized trust videos where I'm going to go through them one by one. Because
Do you know Marcus Sabadello? Is that who you're talking about, Nikki?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people in the community who really know DIDs.
yeah, I need
But
friendly ones that are going to talk
yeah,
to
I
me.
think Marcus is really good at explaining things and simplifying things and
Okay.
could be helpful. And maybe there could be, he could help you. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
there are lots of other people. Anchor's also very good on DIDs. Um, Drummond, of course, but that might not be the most practical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Marcus Sabadello, he's got like shoulder length hair and he's somewhere in the EU, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Austria, I
Yeah.
think he's based in.
Yes,
Do
okay.
you want me to do a quick intro?
Uh yes, actually that would be great. You can
Okay.
say that I'm working on bite-sized trust. So I'm working on making information about DIS more accessible to people with examples, etc., in short format, and that I'm looking on for technical advice on the next sections.
And here's some, Maki just sent this deck with authentication and authorization for agents.
Yeah.
I think
OAuth,
authorization,
yeah.
as we all know, is really in the weeds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certainly I would start with authentication.
Yeah.
If I
My
think in
personal view is that there's a lot of different uses of the terms like delegation and authorization and working on behalf of and all that kind of thing at the moment in the community. Certainly, I feel people use those words to mean quite different things. And they kind of invoke legal meaning in what is a very technical process, if you see what I mean. So, but I'll ping you an intro to Marcus and see if he's got some time to help or he can recommend someone else. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. And in the meantime, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. Well, actually, Notebook LM, you can give it the specifications and it does a pretty good job. It doesn't bullshit as much and it says, I don't know, and it gives you citations to documentation. So that's much better approach.
All right. 5 minutes left. We haven't made much headway on the use case that Chihuahua is doing. We'll wait till he's back in the meeting to get an update on that. But other than that, any other discussion points? I guess, what is this one post I put, this thing, what was it? This new thing about oh, DSpy. Whoops. There it is. Where's the DSpy thing? Oh. Can you see this? There's DSpy. Can you see that?
No.
No. Okay, it's on different. What about here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if anybody's looked at this, but it is declarative framework for building modular AI software. So I was trying to understand, how that works. But I guess the idea is that you build your software in chunks so that it doesn't break if, yeah, modular sort of what workflows, so that if you decide to move from OpenAI to Anthropic to Gemini or whatever, you don't have to recode, or it doesn't break things. But I'm not sure if this is useful to us. So anyway, okay. Anything else in the last 3 minutes? I'd say the last, I mean, you can all drop off, but I'm telling you that I have to start using agents, but I don't want to give these companies access to all my stuff. I'm like, gosh, I should build this agent to do this. Okay, that's fine. Just give me access to your address book, your calendar, your email, your hard drive. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so if we could have somebody come in and say, build me a local, just something on my machine that has a firewall with these models, I'd love that.
Yeah,
Well, anything you
no money.
do with the APIs is private, right? Unless you give it a connection to something exterior. So that if you use ChatGPT in the web, all that is, you have to turn off the history, which is kind of kills the purpose of ChatGPT. But if you do anything like in VS Code or something like that, it's not going to share any content you have.
That's what they've been telling us for
Even
30
though LLM
years.
is not supposed to share if you're using it with a commercial account, like a company account.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to share. But who knows, right?
That's what they've been telling us for 30 years. Oh, excellent. Thanks. So the link in the chat for the social jam relationships. We'll take a look at that. And I guess that's it. We've hit the time. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
See you next.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Rest of your week. Bye.